Let's do it.
All right, it's Friday, and you know what that means? It's Free Hands Friday, and today is awesome because it's Free Hand Friday number 36, and our special guest today is Josh Goldberg.
That's me.
Yeah.
Hi.
And we have a large contingent of players that are out there in the Northeast area, and including some band members, and we've got Vlad with us, so Russia is fairly well represented. And so I suppose without any further ado, Josh, how's it going, man?
It's going well, man. I'm sitting here. I've been excited to do this for a long time. I've watched a number of these, and I got to finally sit in on a live one during the last 20 minutes of Michael Bernier's, and that was really cool. It was a very cool experience. Definitely neat, level of interactiveness that is provided by Google Hangout is, I think, one of the things that makes this really special.
Yeah, it is pretty humbling to be around Michael Bernier.
Yeah.
Giving Tony Levin lessons, right? I mean, like,
Yeah. That's some status right there.
how you gonna top that? Okay, so there's so many questions I want to ask you, and people have talked about the format that we. Well, first of all, let me back up a second. So, among the things that we'll talk about today, obviously, stick science, which is, I think, as I recall, one of the first things that I ever saw out on the Stickist, where something was reoccurring that people were doing that you could kind of like tune into. It had like a number to it. So we'll talk a little about that. We're going to kind of dig up some of the past. We're going to talk about what you're doing right now and what your plans are for the future. I'm sure that will involve Geff and the solo album.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm sure there'll be. So anyway, what I was getting at was the format that we use, where like it's you and me mostly talking. We can do that, but I think what makes it more kind of fun for everyone is to just kind of have more of an open forum. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we're trying to use more of that format. I suppose what I like to do is to make sure that I can kind of highlight the person, whoever's asking the question, so that we can hear the question and that you can kind of elaborate on it. So
sounds good to me.
Cool. Well, then let's start with this, Josh. I suppose my first question is to you: why music? Like, what is it about music that you were drawn to? Was there an experience in your life that, I mean, like, why not construction or education or, like management? Like, there's something that happened in your life and music was a part of it and you were drawn to it. Tell me what it was.
I think there's like a handful of experiences that I could probably just throw at you. All right, so let me go in chronological order. I'm going to give you the top four, right?
Okay.
My earliest musical memory is being 2 years old and sitting my parents down on the couch so that I could rap the ABCs with a little handheld battery-powered microphone to them. And that's, I don't know, it's such a good time. I remember that being like a very warm memory for me.
Yeah. And I bet they were stoked too. They're like, he's got it.
I'm sure they were humoring me. I am 100% positive that they were humoring me.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was 11 years old. My parents split up, and I kind of dove into video games. And I would say that the thing that really got me on the path to music was video game music. Because I remember being 11 years old and my father had moved out. Yeah, it was like JRPGs for me.
Okay.
And so my father had moved out, and he was living in Boston. I'm kind of from this area. I'm sort of from all over the place, but I have spent the most of my life in the Massachusetts area. And my father had moved out, and I was in his apartment playing my PlayStation. I was playing Final Fantasy VII on my PlayStation, and I had just gotten to the Cosmo Canyon scene. It's like this beautiful, tribal town built into the side of a mountain with this like amazing telescope in it. And there's the scene where the characters are sitting around the campfire, and the music was so powerful that I put the controller down and I just sat there for a good 20 minutes just listening to the song. Because, with old school video game music, it's just a loop that repeats. And I just sat there listening to that loop for about 20 minutes. And I think that's what really... I think everything that I've ever written since, I've been trying to capture that feeling again. And then after that, I was 13, and my friend Eric Pennington played the guitar, and he played the piano, and he sang, and he was really good at it for a 13-year-old, and I just thought that was the damn coolest thing. And so I was like, I want to do that, and I picked up guitar, and I was terrible at it, and I switched to bass guitar for a little bit, and then I went to boarding school when I was 15, and that was a really hard time for me. And I came in as a sophomore, and it was a very kind of cliquey place. It's a prep school. One second, I'm sorry, I'm just going to shut my door.
Where was the school, Josh? Where were you going to school? Was it there up in the Northeast?
Yeah, it was in Vermont Academy out in Saxons River, Vermont.
Okay.
And I got back into guitar, and it was kind of like the only thing, I didn't really fit in. It was kind of the only thing that it made sense, And then I wound up taking my first music theory class there when I was 17, and it was like, oh, well, I'm going to do this. And that's what it's been.
Wow. Since you're 17. Did you have your guitar with you while you were there?
Oh, yeah.
So
actually, one of the Mr. Frickin' Everdale broke the whammy bar off of my first electric guitar playing with it. He's so pissed.
Do me a favor. Okay, so there's two things. I know you've got one more. You've got one more musical experience. So I want to hear it. But first of all, I want to hear the name. Yeah, you've got one more, right?
Well, that was all four.
That was all four. Okay.
Well, what were you going to ask?
The name of the guy that you saw when you were 13 years old.
Eric Pennington.
Eric Pennington. Okay.
He's a close personal friend of mine. He's still one of my best friends in the entire world. And, we were talking on the phone a couple of weeks ago about like, my album, my upcoming album, what I'm doing with Jeff, and like all the stuff that I'm doing. And I stopped and I paused on the phone. I was like, this is all your fault, right?
Yeah, that's cool. We all have someone like that we hold very close. I just wanted to hear his name. Daryl Goldfarb was mine.
Yeah.
Like, I did. Everyone's got somebody. Right? I mean, maybe it was Frank Zappa, but oftentimes it's someone that or that you actually see them doing it as a kid, and you think, God, that probably feels really good to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's. It's touching, and it's cool that you're still in touch with him. That you guys are still friends. Does he do music at all, or like?
He does music. It was a hobby for him. He could have done it professionally, but he knew that it would suck the joy of it out for him if he did that. So he does it as a hobby. But I mean, like, this is the guy. Before I could even play an instrument, we were in 6th grade and we recorded a 6-song album together called Living Example, and our band was Neurotic Freaks of Nature, and it was called Living Example, and the cover of it was a drawing that he drew, because this kid he was very talented. He was just like, he could do anything he wanted. And it was a sad crying clown holding a bunch of balloons, and in each one of the balloons was a face that was laughing at him.
So here's my question to you: do you still have that album? Is that album still around somewhere?
I don't have it. One of my friends does. One of our friends that we grew up with, and he knows how embarrassing it is for me. So every now and then he'll be like, "Hey, check out this new band I found," and he'll send me that song. He'll send me the first song off of it. I sang on this as a little 6th grader. Yeah, I couldn't play any instruments, so I sang. I could not sing either, but I did anyway.
Never stopped me.
Yeah. And I wrote all the lyrics too, and like the chorus of the first song, which was called Afterlife, was afterlife, the afterlife, death is never final when you're in the afterlife, the afterlife.
You know, it makes it feels right.
I know.
I can imagine, though, that he would only remind you of that album's existence when he needs money.
Oh, the reason he didn't go into music is because he went into business. He's actually very well-to-do right now. Out of college, was making a fair amount of money and has more than once helped fund my projects. So I not only do I owe him a lot of for getting, but I owe him a huge debt of gratitude for the help that he's handed to me in getting my projects completed.
What a great guy. Is he going to want to sing on any of them?
No, but I mean, he'll still send me the music that he's writing, and we talk about what we're doing. I love for somebody who decided not to pursue it in depth in the way that I have, or in the way that a lot of my friends and colleagues have. Like, he is extremely just his ear is so unique, and he's got such an interesting way of looking at things, and just is very, again, he's just a very talented guy. I still to this day love the stuff that he produces, and he inspires me, and I know I inspire him, and it's just kind of this back and forth that we have.
That's nice. Like keep in touch with those people. I mean, that's great to just have them around you to kind of seek out those people. So so that being said, out of I'm trying to think of like how I want to phrase the next question. So because we're going to get to the stick at some point, but I think that like so much of us have kind of a musical kind of, it's like a springboard, right? And then like when you do finally get to the stick, it's like then you get to really go into the pool, I guess.
Right.
But as you were doing music, you realized right before college or prep school, like what was the next big step? I mean, because like now you're a teenager, right? And like now it's like career, college. Like what are you going to do next? Like what happened for Josh Goldberg after that?
I told my dad that I wanted to do music professionally, and him being the cool guy that he is, he asked my music teacher at the time, he was like, so is my son just another kid putzing around on his guitar? And the music teacher said no, and if it weren't for the rest of my class, that I'd be 3 or 4 units ahead of where I was, if not farther. And so my dad said, okay, then I'm going to run with this. And I said that I didn't feel ready for college, so we had me take a postgraduate year at the Cambridge School of Weston, where I studied guitar with Gustavo Assis Brazil for a year, and I took their entire music curriculum, like every music course that they offered, plus a couple of English courses and a physics course. Actually, pause the game. I still have it. My final project, I took a physics of sound course, and my final project was this pitch percussion PVC piano.
That is a free hands Friday.
Yeah.
Wait, no, more of that. Come on. Like, that's badass. So what have you got here? You made this.
Wait, let's see if I can... Tyler recognized that, sort of.
Wow.
That's the melody to one of our songs that we're working on.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That is a free Friday first. Homemade instruments.
Yeah, I did all the measurements. That was the project, is you had to make your own instruments. So I did all of the measurements. My dad helped me with the materials and the construction of it, but like I did all the calculations. I made sure everything was correct, and we put it together.
Nice.
So
then were there bands that you were in, or like what, like as you like you finished up school, it sounds like, and then it was like, hey, now it's time for what comes next.
Right. Honestly, my first band was And the Traveler. Not many people in my high school played music, and I had already been so used to not being in a band by the time that I got to CSW that, even though I jammed with some of the people there and I wrote some music with some of the people, we never really did a band. And it wasn't until I went to college. CSW? Cambridge School of Weston, I'm sorry. That's where I took my postgraduate year.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was in college and I met Max, and we moved in together that I actually was in my first band.
Okay. And Max is in.
He's the singer and the guitarist of And the Traveler.
Okay. Okay. And that was the beginning of And the Traveler.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
So.
was 6.5 years ago.
Okay. 6.5 years ago. Okay. So actually, let me take a break here because now we're approaching a topic I'm sure where other people will have questions, whether it be specifically about bands or And the Traveler. But Victor, Luke, Josh, John, Vlad, do you guys have a question? Because I have plenty.
Well, I guess I'll ask the obvious one then. Which came first, And the Traveler or the Stick?
And the Traveler. I actually used to play guitar in that band, and Max sang and played the drums. And we had this guy on bass. And I was still in college at this point, and I really hated. I was a jazz and classical guitar major in college, and I really hated it. Like guitar, I didn't like playing guitar until probably 3 years ago. No, probably 2 years ago, if even then. Just because I could never do what I wanted on it until I got fluent enough on the stick that I could bring that musicality back to the guitar. But yeah, I used to play guitar, and Max sang and played drums, and then the transition. We had a bassist who left, and then we got another guy right around the time that I got the stick, who would switch back and forth between guitar when I was on stick and bass when I was on guitar, and then he left, and I switched to stick full time, and Max jumped over to the guitar, and we got ourselves a drummer, and that's how it was for a long time. That's the iteration that you guys know.
That's right.
Are there any recordings of the earlier iterations out there?
Yeah, I don't have them. We actually wrote and recorded an entire album before The Road to Reason that is The Road to Reason's backstory that we never released because we didn't like how it sounded.
Well, if you don't like it, right? I mean, that's your creative prerogative.
Yeah. But I don't have them. Max has them, I suppose, somewhere. I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's you want to talk about it in the Traveler, or do you want to just skip straight to now?
No, we can talk about it.
Okay. So when did you know it was right? Like when you were working with, I mean, for starters, there's not a lot of drummers, Luke, no offense intended, not a lot of drummers that can just skip to guitar, right? I mean,
well, he was a guitarist first, I suppose.
I see.
And then picked up the drums sometime in college.
I see.
It wasn't like he just jumped right to it. He had dabbled with a number of instruments before we got to where we were.
Okay.
His main being the voice. That's what he studied in college. We actually met in our music department.
I see. Okay, so he was now, and it's tell us something we don't know about on the Traveler. I mean, how did from day one, how it came together, how it changed you. Tell me about it.
Definitely taught me a lot. I pretty much learned to play the stick because of that band. Obviously, I was taking lessons with Steve for about a year and a half, and he taught me a lot. But that band taught me how to apply it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just the instrument itself; it was the music. Which I think comes before the instrument, and the instrument's just a tool to bring it out. I learned, I really learned a lot from that group. I feel like I have a good handle of what works in the business side of things and what doesn't. I feel like, that did a lot to help me find my voice as an instrumentalist and as a composer in that band.
Was that a comfortable experience?
What?
The creative process? I mean, between the three of you? I mean,
It was usually Max and I butting heads until we found something that was better than what both of us could do.
Yeah.
For a while.
It's unlike any other rock band in the history of the universe, right? I mean,
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Okay.
um, but yeah, it was good for a while. It just after a while we just Max and I just couldn't see eye to eye about stuff anymore, and it got pretty hostile toward the end, and it was just like, all right, I have to go, like this isn't. Not practicing. I was unhappy. It was just time for a change of scenery.
Right.
And I feel bad. From what I understand, I actually haven't spoken to Max or Donald since I left. And they have made no effort to reach out to me either. I feel bad. I from what I hear, from my understanding, they took it pretty hard. Um, but I stand by the statement that was the right move in so many ways for me.
Good.
Just in the 4 months that I've been living in Boston, I have expanded as a person and as a musician, I think, more than I have in the last year and a half.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Especially with Tyler's help, because we're in a really sweet freaking band together now.
Yeah. And I have been destroyed more in the time that he's been here than he has expanded as a person.
There you have it.
My spirit is crushed.
So Josh, enough about you, right? Okay, John, tell us something about Josh, right?
Something about Josh.
Yeah.
He's pretty much my chauffeur. No, I mean it was. I actually met Josh. I was when I decided I was going to get a stick. I was kind of perusing around Bandcamp trying to find music to listen to, and I found this band and the Traveler. And I sent Josh. I found Josh on Facebook, sent him a message. I was like, I think it's really cool that you were able to apply it to a band in the way that you were and everything. I really enjoy the music. Blah blah blah. And he sent me a message back pretty quickly, and we were talking about the stick for a little while because I was looking at getting one, and he actually reached out when he was in Boston. I think he was up for family or something like that, and I had just gotten my stick probably about a month before this, so he kind of came and we had a little jam session there. I wasn't very good, but I was kind of still feeling my way around the instrument. He was kind of.
When was that?
That was, I guess that was around October last year.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah.
You've already put out an album with the stick or an EP with the stick, John?
Yeah, the Digits EP.
Okay, well.
Tyler's kicking butt, man.
He works fast, Josh. He works fast. That's good, right?
Not only does he work fast, but he's picking it up really quick, and I don't know. I think he has a very. I said this to him because he came to my place for Thanksgiving, but he's got a very distinctive style, which I like a lot. You definitely have your own voice, and I probably wouldn't be working with him if he wasn't the musician that he is. If he wasn't as just rawly talented as he is and picking it up so fast,
Good.
There was a lot of, I owe Tyler and our drummer Josh a huge thank you, because I don't know that I would have had the courage to leave And the Traveler if I didn't know that I'd be walking into something like this when I moved to Boston, and they kind of just I proposed it and they were like, yeah, let's do this, and we kind of got a slow start. And then we started seeing the kind of stuff that we were writing. We got a couple of tunes now, and then everybody got really freaking excited about it. And that's it, man. Tyler just sent me. We've been finally recording our first song, and Tyler sent me the mix that Josh is going to play drums to. Josh Merhar, that's our drummer. and he just sent me the first mix that he's gonna play drums to. Man, it's like I've never heard anything like this.
That's cool. I've heard little bits that Tyler's been putting out there on YouTube. I don't know if those are the same.
There are ideas that we're using. You're talking about the video of just like a computer screen and
Maybe one or even two that I heard.
yeah. So those are some ideas we're using. All the recordings and those videos is me, but that's some stuff that I've brought into rehearsal and we're working with now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is exciting. So so Geff. Tell me about Geff. So let's kind of flash to the present. It's kind of fun to get kind of the backstory and how it all came together. And actually, let me open this up. Vlad, Luke, Victor, if you guys have questions about the new band or something you want to interject.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
So, okay, so this question is coming from someone who really hasn't been playing anything for more than it's been 2.5 years since I started it. So this might be a little bit of an ignorant question, but how do two sticks operate together without interfering? I mean, we all have seen bands with two guitars, but bands with I don't know. Does one of you operate more with distortion? The other one operates more with a clean sound. I mean, how do you operate together without stepping on each other's toes with such a?
Figuring that out, I think, is half the fun of the band. Personally, I am so pleased to be in a band where we have to sit down and actually think about arranging for two of this crazy space alien instrument.
Big negotiation.
Yeah, a little bit. It's neat because it's like, yeah, and I remarked this to Tyler after one rehearsal. I was like, all of our songs, in any one of our songs, we never approach the instrument in the same way twice. The song that we just recorded, which is called Splinter. And fun fact, all right, you want to know something neat about And the Traveler? My parts in Splinter are the parts that sparked me leaving And the Traveler.
Interesting. So that was your first, I got to get this out of me, this has to be written, I was writing this.
Yeah. And it just, those are I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what happened because I don't feel like slinging mud and I don't feel like bringing that stuff up right now, but yeah, those are the parts. My parts in this song are the parts that ignited me leaving. Anyway, so I'm doing a lot of, in this song, I'm doing a lot of, playing the bass and playing a melody line, right? While Tyler's going back and forth between playing, kind of this extended range 8-string guitar tapping stuff to some chordal backup stuff. And there's one part in the entire song where he's playing both sides at the same time, and he's using it as kind of like a rhythmic trick. He's got two sounds going on between both of his sides, and doing a rhythmic thing to mess around with your head a little bit during it.
Yeah. HD 500X is really great for doing.
Yeah, I really like the stuff that he gets out of.
Splitting sounds up. Yeah. That was actually the exact same question I asked Tony Levin at Freehands Academy this summer. During his little Q&A thing. We're definitely still kind of, and his answer was more or less there's no real one way to do it, and we've kind of found that that's completely true. It's just you've got to kind of the way we write songs is somebody brings in an idea, and then the other player has to kind of write something that fits around that without clashing with it.
Right.
So it is sort of a trial and error kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like the way that all three of us are approaching it is let's do what's right for the part. It's very much, it's super collaborative, which I love. I think that the point of being in a band, if it's not a band that you've put strictly around your own material that you've already written and you're just hiring people to be instruments for you, then the point of being in a band is to collaborate. And I love, like Josh and Tyler and I feel like we're really gelling super hard, man. It's cool. And there's it's like so. Okay, so for example, we've got this one song called Mokhtar Dario, right? Which I think is ancient Sumerian for the cosmic joke. It like roughly translates to cosmic joke or something like that. I don't know. And it came about because I was hanging out with a friend of mine, staying at my friend's for a couple of days over the weekend, and I said to myself, you know what? I've never played the stick like a piano. I'm gonna do that. I came up with this. And so on and so forth. Like that's the piano groove that came out of it, right? And so I showed that to we were still working on our first song. This was the second song that we wrote. We're still working on the first song, and I was like, oh yeah, I came up with this idea that maybe we can try out after this. And I showed it was just me and Josh for a second, and so I showed him, and he was playing drums, and that groove is in 5. It's in this really weird 5 triplet pattern thing that is all messed up. And so Tyler got there, and we showed him, and he was like, "Oh, whoa, what the hell is this?"
I went home and cried for like 3 hours.
So he asked me to record him a rough of it, and I sent it to him, and he came in, and the next rehearsal, he had a really cool part that was like a really great contrast, because it's a much more straightforward 5 groove than whatever the hell I'm playing. Yeah. And so like listening to the two together, it's like kind of pulls you like this. And then the next thing we did, it's like, all right, so we've got this thing that is really neat, but I don't want to just immediately move away from it. So then Tyler wrote a melody to it, and I changed my part to... like that, and I gave it, and it's following the same chord changes, and the bass line, just this groove. Oh, cool. The bass line of that groove is following, the same rhythm as the left hand of this groove. It's like so it's very condensed. It's like we try really hard to bring in like, okay, we've got 3 ideas in this song, and that's all we're going to use, and we're going to take those 3 ideas and we're going to turn it into a 10-minute song or a 6-minute song, or like whatever it is, like so then we're kind of sitting here being like, well, what the hell do we do after this? And Tyler's like, oh, well, I got this bass line. Still in 5, right? So, and then Josh starts. It's this kind of like really drunken sounding thing going on, and Josh starts playing this really creepy, messed up beat to it, and I just got this feedbacker pedal, right? This thing is awesome. So when I hold this thing down, it makes feedback. So I'm kind of keeping it straightforward there, and then going.
Like very much.
Huh?
It's very much the drummer and I both we really come from a place that's kind of influenced by the kind of later '70s King Crimson with John Wetton and Bill Bruford, and so it's very much kind of inspired by some of those jams, especially on the Starless and Bible Black album. It kind of has that feel to it.
Yeah, you can really hear it. It's very cool, and I'm coming from like a very like modern. Right now, like I've just been eating up this like modern progressive metal stuff. You know, there's this riff that I wrote in Splinter that it breaks down into this like really heavy kind of thing going on where I've got like distortion on my bass side and it's, I screwed it all up.
Cool. So it'll be interesting to see how when you guys are putting together your rig. I mean, it sounds like you've already got your rig. You're going to need 2 bass rigs and 2 guitar rigs each, right? I mean, you're each going to have a rig because at any given time, one of you can be playing bass parts, while the other can be playing melodic parts, or vice versa.
I've been so what I've been doing for rehearsal is I've been going from the HD 500X like right into the PA. What I'm thinking about getting is just a good sized keyboard amp that can kind of just get wherever I want to go, and because it does sound like a logistical nightmare getting to gigs with 2 bass amps and 3 guitar amps.
One of the big things that we saw at the Freehands Academy was the QVCs. So people liked those QVC 12s, and it had that. Kevin Keith had that. Frickin' Rob Martino's got that. There's a whole bunch of other cats that are raving about that. I think Marty Faris, who's this great player up in Canada, who did the video on changing strings. I think he went with the QVC. So
yeah.
Options. So, Josh, I didn't really get to say it, but man, that was a cool bit. I liked seeing you play that. I liked that you're not really like, I don't have to have 2 hands on the board on one side. It can go any direction, right? There's 10,000 different ways to play the instrument, and that's what I suppose is so great about it. People kind of make this presumption with a bass or a guitar, you've got to pick in one hand and you're fretting chords in the other, but with the stick, it's really like, well, that was kind of what we did in the 20th century, but like now there's so many other ways that we can interpret it and create music. I think that's why Emmett made the stick, was to find new ways to learn to play music.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's why any innovation is made, is to find the limits of that innovation. You know what I mean? Right. And my approach to the stick and what drew me to it initially is that my opinion of it is that it is a musical Swiss Army knife. It's the world's first musical Swiss Army knife in the truest sense. Because I mean, how many freaking sound in just the 3 parts that I played for you? Like, how many freaking sounds did I make? There was piano, there was like guitar, there was an 8-string guitar thing going on. I had all that weird, crazy synth sounds, and I had the the bass going on, like everything that a computer can do. I haven't found something that the Chapman stick can't do yet. Especially with the addition of MIDI, it's like it's every instrument in the world.
So now, do you use MIDI at all?
No.
Okay.
I am not yet satisfied, even though it's getting a lot better. I am not yet satisfied with the quality of MIDI yet to use it to take it seriously.
Right. I've tried it with and without. It's not the reason. I mean, I don't know that well, there's a lot of people that want to have those synth sounds, and I've heard Steve Adelson pull it off. I've heard a bunch of guys pull it off. Kevin Keith did some cool stuff, but it's And for I know for starting players, people who are just beginning, you know, they want to set out with a nice rig and they want to have MIDI. Maybe they've done that with the guitar, but then they're just trying to keep the darn thing in tune and like stay inspired. And so that can be challenging. So and you know you can get a lot of sounds without it, right? I think Greg kind of harped on that. He used it like using it like an orchestra. Is kind of I suppose what he meant.
Yeah. There's a lot of orchestral capabilities with it. I mean, I don't think I started. I feel like I have a really good grasp now, directly because of the stick, for how a whole band fits together, or how like any sort of ensemble fits together, because the instrument itself forces you to think really orchestrally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got used to doing that, and so now I feel like, okay, throw a number of instruments in front of me and tell me, give me a little cheat sheet on their limitations, and I'll be able to do something reasonably well with it. I wouldn't go and say like, oh man, I'm gonna be flipping amazing. Oh, I'm so good. I'm the next Beethoven. Right. No, it's not like that. But like, I won't be drowning.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty proud to be able to say that with confidence.
Right. That sort of kind of musical evolution takes time, and that's the beauty of it. Is I'm sure that like when you're away from your instrument, just like you've been away, you're in this new setting, you're in this new surrounding, so you have this whole experience to pull from. And it sounds like this track Splinter was really like something that needed to get written. It was like, got to write it, like someone's got to help me write this, or I've got to write this, and some people are going to help me, express this feeling that I felt.
Right. So like those parts came. I had just finished all of the composition for my solo album. Speaking of which, I have a solo album coming out January 6th. I'm pretty confident it'll be done by then. It's 8 songs, all composed by me, and I played everything on it but the drums. And I have a couple of people taking some guest solos on it, but everything else, all the guitars and all the Chapman stick parts were me.
Cool. We're looking forward to that.
It's called Journey to the Center of the Ear, and the project name is called The Afro Circus, because that amuses me.
But
Exactly.
You guys all thought it. I sang it. Right?
I'm trying to do a fretless guitar solo on it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
That's kind of my weekend project is getting this thing recorded. But it's kind of Michael Bernier talked me into. Can somebody clear up how to pronounce his last name?
Bernier, I have heard. Actually, he literally told me it's Berkowitz.
Well, I messaged him on Facebook just because it seemed like one of the weird things that he would know something about. I was like, "You ever played fretless guitar?" It's like, "Yeah, I've done once or twice." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about taking the frets off one of my old guitars." He's like, "Oh no, absolutely, you have to do it." I was like, "Okay," and so I did that myself, and I'm still kind of trying to work my way around it, but Josh really wanted something that sounded. Huh?
Again?
You took the frets off yourself?
Yeah. And it came out. It actually came out okay. There are a lot of places online you can kind of see where, because people do it with basses all the time. They don't feel like investing in a good fretless bass, and they have an old one lying around though.
There's a great story about Jocko being on the road with who is it? Guitarist that Steve Adelson likes so much, and he just pulled the frets off of his bass, and then I think he used like boat lacquer or something like that just to slack it on the neck, and he's like, "Look, it's fretless."
That's good. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it was. I literally.
What did you do?
I literally took a screwdriver and just popped all the frets off and put some wood filler and filled it in. And it wasn't a $2,000 guitar to begin with. It was like one of the earlier guitars I had, and So it's been my project guitar for a while. I used to have MIDI installed on it and everything like that. So
Okay.
it's gone.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine the tracking on that? Oh, it was Pat Metheny. That's who that I was trying to think of earlier. But the tracking on a fretless guitar.
Yeah, I'm positive that the technology isn't there yet for that.
Yeah.
They're getting there with, especially after seeing Steve with his rig. They're like getting there with the tracking for it now. But yeah, fretless instrument. I can't imagine that being easy to manage.
So is that Josh? Is Tyler what's holding up the album then? Is that what I'm hearing?
Not yet.
I'm kidding. I'm just trying to start band conflicts. That's just the way. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the solo album. I mean, like, was material already being written while you were back in New York, or has this been like?
Yeah, I've been working on it for about a year. I got commissioned. A friend of mine joined this company to write, and it was like this startup company that was making this like cell phone video game, right? It was a version of Snake. It was like an interactive or a multiplayer like head-to-head version of Snake with power-ups and all this stuff. And he commissioned me to write the music for it. And so I got started on that, and then they went under, and I was like, well, heck, I'm gonna keep going. And then I just wound up writing a bunch of songs. And I was like 5 songs in out of 8 when I kind of said to myself, like, all right, I got to find a place to record this. And so my buddy Andy Porta from, he has this place, Black Cat Studios, out in White Plains, New York, and he and I have been working together since April. You know, I started tracking in April, and we've been mixing for the last couple of months. I got, the drums done for the last 3 tunes that needed drums a couple of weeks ago, and we're working on he and I are mixing the second to last song now of the album, and then I just send it to mastering, and then it's done. I get it pressed, and I'm freaking done. But yeah, I think that was a big part of me leaving And the Traveler too, because like that was, kind of. I really figured out my own voice, and the more that I realized how I wanted to compose songs and how I wanted to approach music, the less room there was for me in that band. You know what I mean?
I had for what it's worth, this episode's really more about Josh Goldberg than it is about Gene Perry, but I had a very similar experience in the Inclined with Miles Tackett. And I knew, like, it had been very collaborative, and then once it started to get serious and money started to happen, we started talking about publishing and copyrights and this whole kind of songwriting element. It was like he was in control of the guitar and he was in control of the vocals, and so it was kind of like, well, that's a lock, I guess, and I guess I'm kind of relegated to this, the bassist, but it's still a band, and at that point, that's when I kind of knew. I was like, I have so much more to say. There's so much more going on, and when I left the band, it was a very similar experience. Didn't talk to them, like the Incline Steve, the drummer, who was like my childhood friend from when I was 4. Left 3 days later. He's like, I can't do this without you. I'm not going to deal with him without you. It was this very delicate balance, and so we didn't talk for years, and about that was back. We got signed in '93, and then toured and did all that, and split up around '95, '96. And then we started talking around 2007 and got back together and did some shows and had some fun. And then, and now we're friends and it's all legit. But it's important to do what you're doing, I think. And like some magic bananas, right? It's going to happen right now. I mean, I can tell you right now, the way you're talking to me, I can see the way John's lighting up when you guys are like talking about this project. And the way that you're kind of clearing the decks here with your solo album, it's super exciting to hear, man. I mean, can't wait. Can't wait.
You. I do want to say this too. I have I realize more and more I have a chronic case of overachievement, I think. So, and I want to apologize to everybody here for not keeping on myself for doing the stick science. It's been um, one part me settling into Massachusetts, and one part kind of laziness and still trying to figure out my new setup. But my next project after my album, I made a joke to a friend of mine. I was like, "Yeah, I'll get this album out, and then like for about a week, I'll feel really good about my accomplishments. Then I'll start to feel like crap about myself, and I have to, get involved with some other ridiculous task." uh, my next project is to write a stick science book.
Do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do it.
I think.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
Cool. I think the way that I want to approach it is I'm going to do, it's going to be like from beginner to probably intermediate to low advanced level. So like you'll be able to, like, if this is the first book that you own on the stick, you'll be able to pick up the stick and play it. And I'm going to do it since so many people come from, myself included, come to the stick from a different instrument. I'm going to have like various chapters that approach it through the eyes of a different instrument. Like I'll have guitar scales translated to the stick. I'll have like comping like a pianist, walking like a bassist. I'll have stuff like drummer rudiments and drummer exercises to help you out with your hand separation. And then chapters that focus on bringing all that stuff together to really be doing
It sounds
something.
good. I like the premise, and you already have an audience for it. So my question to you is, do you know how the Free Hands book came about?
No.
So the Free Hands book was actually a newsletter, like a frickin' folded up and put into an envelope and actually mailed out from, by Emmett. He probably licked the envelopes himself and sent it out to people.
Ah.
Send out lessons. So he'd send out lessons and he'd put it together and he'd print it out and probably had to go down to like the Kinko's or whatever it was back when the Kinko's was the Kinko's, right? And he'd staple them together himself and fold them up and send it out to Chuck Hughes out in Colorado and to probably Bob up in Northern Cal. But that's you're kind of what you're doing is important. I'm just saying, like, it starts with that what you're doing right now, and that is that I've got this idea, and the next step's a big one, obviously, executing, but it's kind of exactly what Emmett did, and so you should do it.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while because I feel like my practicing has gone a little bit to the wayside because I've been focusing so much on writing and recording and stuff. I finally, this last week, I think I got like 3 hours every day, finally, which has been driving me nuts. I'm sorry, I have this terrible habit. You said it starts with one thing, and I immediately jump to that Linkin Park song, and it starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter. I constant association with bad songs in my head when people talk.
Well, listen, you already have a lot of this book written if you can pull from material that you already know.
Yeah, I feel like all I have to do is figure out how the hell to format a book, and I pretty much had the rest is almost done for me since I've already done it. I want to do a couple more videos before I really dig into the book. I think the videos are going to take a big break, like a much bigger break than they have while I'm writing this thing. Just because I'm gonna be, that's where my energy is gonna be going, and then once I finish up the book and it's been out for a little while, I'll probably start doing the videos again, just because I know I'm gonna be discovering new stuff while I write the book and while I'm organizing all of my thoughts. Like that's just how it works for me. Is I always, in putting it together, I always wind up better coming out than going in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's get in the last questions and call it a night. Thank you, everybody, again.
Sure, man. This is cool. I've been I'm sure I speak for everyone, but like we've all been waiting for this for a long time. So, and I'm sure probably feels good to just kind of because I've been reading stuff on Facebook and I've been kind of getting the news, but it's just kind of nice to get this connection with other people that all feel very much the same way, that care about you, that want to hear your music, that are like, what's next,
Yeah, it's super neat, and it really, I don't know. It means a lot to me that you guys are here, and that I got the opportunity to do this. I started on the stick. I dropped out of college because they wouldn't let me major on it, and I had like a 3-year, 2-year existential crisis where I was like, "What have I done?" And the fact that I'm here, talking to you guys, and I was asked to be a part of this, it's like, well, I definitely made the right choices. Well, I wouldn't say, maybe they're not the right choices, but I definitely made choices that I can live with and that I'm very happy about.
That's yeah. Okay, so let me ask, guys, before I'm going to kind of wrap up, and we're going to talk about the month of December, Bostember, something like I made up some kind of fun name for it. So I want to make sure that if there's anything you wanted to ask Josh, this is the forum and this is the place to ask. So.
Well, I've only got one brief remark. Really, it's not so much of a question, but I was lucky enough to attend the Northeast Stick Seminar this past April that Brett Bottomley put on, and Josh was a member of the faculty over there. That's where I got to meet him. And the one thing I want to share about Josh is that I don't think I ever saw him at any moment without that sense of enthusiasm and that happiness just kind of oozing out of him. You know what I mean? I mean, call it an ooze, call it a glow, whatever. But I mean, Josh is very obviously somebody who is loving what he's doing, and he's got a lot of enthusiasm and love for the instrument, and it really comes across. And so this is why he's such a cool cat to watch, and this is why I enjoy him so much. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So actually, before we go, talk to us about the seminar. Tell us about Brett and working with all those guys, because
that was one of the coolest freaking experiences of my life. That was so neat. So the only other time that I had been in a room with more than one Chapman stick was when I would go to a lesson with Steve, or that one time that Tyler and I had jammed, right? Excuse me. And so then I go to this place, and this was like the second time I met Brett. He came to one of the shows that we played in Connecticut back when I was with Ann the Traveler. And he, I show up there, and I think I was like the first person to be there. And then people start filtering in, and I got no idea who anybody is, and everybody's got their Chapman sticks, and it's just like a room full of people with a Chapman stick. It's just like, what is going on? And it was a little overwhelming almost. I got to try out a railboard. Greg let me play his railboard, which was really cool. And I gotta say, like everybody was just so kind and excited to be there and supportive and really cool. And Greg, Brett, and Michael kind of have been a huge influence on me, and like personal heroes of mine. They're such talented and forward-thinking players that I thanked them. I said that. I was like, hey, thank you guys for having me along to this. It really means a lot to me. And Brett just kind of looked at me, and he was like, nah, man, you're one of the guys. And like that, man, that is going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
That's great to hear. That's because there's something about that generational kind of shift. And there'll be some cat, you'll be hearing about these guys, Randon and Francisco and Emmett's like nephew, like who are like teenagers, right? Like they're much younger. Well, Francisco's not that young. And Andy Prokopic, these guys, there'll be opportunities for you to kind of return that favor, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's good. I think that the one thing that the stick needs right now as an instrument is younger blood. We've got your generation and Luke's generation on lock. People from that era, grew up with it in King Crimson and the Peter Gabriel band and stuff like that. And then it kind of faded away a little bit. It kind of, aside from what Tony Levin was doing with it, and a little bit John Mayung with Dream Theater. But
that was novelty. I mean, it was cool that he did it, but it wasn't like what you're doing or what like Greg's doing, or.
Yeah, he was just using it like a bass.
Right.
And so I think the most important thing right now for the stick as an instrument is to get young blood into it. I mean, that's where any sort of money and any sort of like popularity is going to be is with the new generation. That's why we see like cell phones taking off, and that's why like or why they did take off is because it was new and the younger generation could get behind it, and they did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how anything goes. So it's exciting to me to see guys like like because Tyler's younger than I am, and guys like Andy Prokopik and like the Francisco and guys like that. It's really exciting to hear that young people are starting to catch on to this thing, because man, I think like I'm really into the world of guitar. As much as I didn't like playing guitar, I still love and always have loved listening to it, and I paid a lot of attention to it. And it's like the biggest innovation on the guitar in the last 10 years was adding more strings to it. And so now like the big thing in the world of guitar is 8-string guitar, 9-string guitar, and it's like these guys are doing these things, and yeah, exactly, and it's cool. And I look at these videos on YouTube of these guys who are like innovating on the 8-string guitar, right? And I go and I watch these videos and I'm like, huh, Bob Colvinson did that 15 years ago.
With like a mullet and like a tropical background, like, and he's like tearing it up. He's playing like He's playing Heavy Weather. He's playing Birdland and like ripping it and hitting harmonics, and is like.
And it's like it's cool. I'm glad that these techniques are finding a venue to make it out there. But now more than ever in the world of guitar and in the world of bass and in the world of like modern music, can the stick be more, like I don't think it has ever had the possibility to be so relevant as it does right now. And the only way it's going to get its due is if young people pick it up.
Well, yeah, that, and also what Geff has an opportunity here is that you get to kind of, from what I understand, there will be guitar and stick. Is that what I'm understanding?
If Tyler feels like playing the guitar, sure, but I don't.
Okay, so, and that's okay, but I mean, you still have, like, where you come from and that sort of thing. Like, you still appreciate it and like hearing it. So it's exciting to hear, but because I've talked to a lot of guitarists that talk about crossing over, and you guys have probably all had this conversation with people. It's not a bass into guitar.
It's its own thing. I remember saying that the first time Tyler and I met, we were like hanging out after we jammed, and he was like, "So do you have any tips?" And I was like trying to think of what to say, and I said to him, I was like, "Well, stop thinking about it like a guitar and a bass, because it's not. It's its own thing. It has elements of that. Sure, it absolutely has elements of that. But it's so much more than just that."
Right. Someone had mentioned to Dale it was the Rubik's Cube of string instruments, and that's I kind of like that one.
I like that too. I like that too.
I was gonna kind of call that my own, but like I can't. Like it was one of Dale's friends. I can't call that my own. So we got to wrap up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you one last question. But before I do, I want to talk really quickly about the month of December. For starters, next week, so you're going to be the host, and I think you're probably going to admin it too. Maybe Russell will join us, but Claire Steger.
Say that again about adminning. You said I'm going to?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to try, right?
Yep.
Because I'm gonna be in Hawaii, but I'll probably still tune in. Because Claire is one of my favorite stickists. So this Chopin piece that she put out, I don't know if you saw it, totally blew up the Stickistas page. And I was like, have you even seen this? I got into a screen share with her. I got into a screen share with Claire, and I was sharing my screen because like they hadn't approved her. Like it's by approval only to get on that site, and they hadn't approved her on it yet. But I put her video up there because I was like, check this out! She's playing Chopin! And so I'm like, look, there's like 70 comments, and everyone likes it, and they're liking the comments. And she's like, oh, I should probably thank them. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, you should. She's like, well, if they'll just approve me, then I can see the comments.
What site is this?
The Stickistas Facebook page, and so
okay, all right.
And this is like people from all over the world. So I mean, this is like France and all of South America and parts of Spain and Portugal, and all these guys are totally digging on Claire. So I'm super excited that we'll have, kind of some we've kind of generated some hype for her and that she gets to come on. So that will be next week. We're going to do that at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to double check that with Claire. And Josh, you're going to be the host for that, which is super great.
Yep.
And the week after that, we're going to have John Tyler Kent on, and you'll be the host for that. Or no, sorry, we're going to have Dale as our host, and that will feature Luke and Jen. Yay! Woohoo! This is one of the rare moments where actually all the people that are going to be on this month are actually on the call. So this is great.
Nice.
And then on the 26th, Josh will be back again as the host and talking about John Tyler Kent.
Yeah.
So you can embarrass him, put him on the spot, just like I did with you, right?
Oh, I'm gonna. Oh, get ready.
You're digging the dirt a little bit. Okay, so my last question for you, Josh, and for starters, thanks to everyone for being here. Obviously, we all know that this is the most awesome community ever, and we protect it and we love it and we share it. And I always look forward to kind of watching these again because there's so much great stuff that goes on. Like you were saying, when all these stickers get together, time starts to warp and already the time has flown by, and I think we're almost at an hour and 45 minutes. So this will be our longest Friday ever. Yeah. My question to you is this, and that is what do you recommend for those new players, for those young players, for those people who are looking to make that first step, who are looking on eBay and contemplating a stick? What would you say to them?
That is a really good question. Play every day and understand that progress isn't overnight. Set yourself goals. I remember the day that I got it, I had this this book from college, this piano book from college, learning. It was like beginner piano for adults or something like that. Very basic stuff. And I said to myself, I'm not going to sleep tonight until I can play, this super simple version of Ode to Joy, right? And I think it took me about 7 hours, and I'm just being locked away in my room, and just I gotta get this, but. I feel like that really set the tone for me, because I'd always been kind of.
Whoa.
What?
Victor. The goal I'm setting for Victor is to not mute our guest.
How can I do
He was
that?
trying to mute himself. All right, so how's the plan?
But yeah, so I feel like that set the tone for me. But yeah, it's find with all the exercises that you might do and with everything that you might do, find a way to make it fun and take it slow. This instrument is a lot. It can be really overwhelming, but once you actually take a deep breath and you start taking it one bit at a time, I used to get overwhelmed as a kid a lot, really easy. My dad would always stop me and he'd say, Josh, how do you eat an elephant? And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm freaking out. And he'd be like, how do you eat an elephant? And I'd stop and I'd be like, I don't know how. And I'd be kind of pouting about it. And he'd say, one bite at a time. And that is so poignant to this instrument. I had one student back in New York. Unfortunately, I lost him because he didn't have his own Chapman stick, so we couldn't do Skype stuff. He would come over and use mine. But it's for the first 3 lessons, all we were doing was getting his left-hand technique so that he could hit notes and make them sound good. And he understood that it takes time. He's been playing music his entire life. He's 30-something. He's been playing music since he was a kid. He understands that this kind of stuff takes time, and so he was down for it. And then finally, after those 3 lessons, like we got that together, and so we started working on right hand technique, just the right hand. Another 3 lessons go by, and then finally on like the 7th lesson, we were like, all right, I think we're ready to put your hands together a little bit. And because we spent time making sure that he was accurate and like had the timing and he had the technique down, he was able to pick up the hand separation very quickly because he was a drummer.
Oh, he was a drummer.
Yeah, but like that's like the point is like like my thing very quickly. The thing that I was able to pick up very quickly was the fretting technique because I was coming from guitar, right? And I feel like with drums and piano, the thing that you can pick up really quickly is the hand separation. And then everything lends itself to something on this instrument, which I like a lot about it. But yeah, you got to take it slow. You got to set yourself goals. And you got to like have learning material.
Right. You got to have a plan. Yeah. John, Luke, you guys know, got to have a plan. That was the one. We all, I think we all can relate to that, and that's good. I know that Luke's planning on releasing some material.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. So, cool. Well, that's good advice. And I feel like I want to go practice right now. So that being said, let me we should wrap up because we're at pretty much at time. But what I'll do is we'll put this up on the Stickist and we'll kind of try to put it out there on the Facebook pages and stuff like that. I want to thank you again, Vlad.
Yeah, Vlad. Thanks, man.
John.
Thank you.
Was it 3 in the morning there where you're at?
Yeah, it's 4 a.m. in the morning.
Dude, you flatter me by being here.
Yeah. It was fun to see. So and I'm good to see some 2013 FHA alumni So Vlad is what made our event international. I'll tell you. We toasted to that. So Luke and Jen, I guess we're going to see you in 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
Possibly not. Yeah, and Dale will be on for that. I talked to her today. She confirmed it.
Excellent.
Cool. Victor, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. See you as well. So I'll get this up on the Stickist, send you guys some links. I'm going to stop the recording. Happy Freehands Friday, and thanks again, Josh, for making time. You guys have a great
Yeah, thanks a lot, Josh.
Thanks. I'll catch you guys later.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Yeah.